leaflet, which, as I'm sure most of you already know, having signed up for the meeting, is a signposting guide which is designed to help people who are experiencing financial insecurity and those who are supporting them to easily be able to identify and access appropriate financial support and advice. And the aim of the leaflet is to reduce the need for emergency food aid by helping people access any existing financial entitlements and also to access advice on income maximisation prior to accessing a food parcel, which is why we'd say it's part of a cash first response to food insecurity. I should actually say as well, for those of you that I haven't met before, my name is Leah Bailey and I work for the Trussell Trust Food Bank Network as an area manager working with the food banks in the network in the west of Scotland, some of whom I can see on the call. I'll be chairing our meeting today because I've been part of the working group for this leaflet in Glasgow. I do want to say a huge welcome and a huge thank you to everyone who's here today on behalf of all the organisations who've been in the working group, and that includes the Independent Food Aid Network, who have led on the development of this leaflet in Glasgow, as well as several other leaflets and other local authorities across Scotland, and now really excitingly the rest of the UK as well. We also have Nourish Scotland, who've played a huge part in developing this resource for Glasgow and the others across Scotland, as well as the fantastic teams at the Glasgow Community Food Network and GAIN, Glasgow's Advice and Information Network. Now, as I said, we do have a really full agenda for today's event, and we're going to hear from lots of brilliant people about how the leaflet was developed, how it can be used, about how financial advice and support agencies can help people who are facing money worries, a bit about why different frontline local organisations support this leaflet and actually how it just fits into Glasgow's wider cash first approach to tackling food insecurity. But before we get to that, I do just want to repeat a couple of Zoom housekeeping points if anyone missed them at the very start. First of all, please feel free to have your cameras on or off. Obviously, it's lovely to get to see everyone's faces today, but if you're having internet problems or you actually just want to turn your camera off for any reason, please feel free to do so. It's not a problem at all. With regards to our mics though, if everyone could keep themselves on mute for the duration of the meeting, unless you're the person speaking, of course, then that would be really helpful. And if you do find your mic is on 1 second and then it's suddenly off, it's not personal, it's just we're trying to avoid background noise. And as I said at the very start, if you haven't had a chance to do so yet, if you could pop your name, your role and your organisation into the chat, that would be brilliant. Also, if you have any questions for any of the speakers throughout this meeting, or just about the leaflet generally, then please feel free to pop them in the chat. As I say, we do have a really full agenda, but we'll try our best to make some time for at least a couple of questions if we have any time left. If we don't manage to get to your questions during the call, we will keep a record of them and we'll try to get back to people if we can see who's answered the question, we have their contact details. Alternatively, if you do have a burning question that you really want to be answered as soon as possible after the meeting, then we'll pop the email address in the chat box, but if you could email admin@foodaidnetwork.org.uk after today's call, then that'll be your best bet to get through to us. Now, speaking of questions, just before we get started and we start hearing from our speakers, we're hoping that it will be okay for us to ask you all a few really quick questions. And to do that, we're going to use a tool called Mentimeter. Now, I'm sure quite a lot of you will probably, hopefully, already have used this tool once or twice over the past year of thousands of online meetings. But for anyone who hasn't used it before, I promise it's a fairly simple one. But if at any point you do find that you're having trouble getting it to work, or your internet's playing up, or your laptop just gets overwhelmed when you have more than 2 things open at a time, then it's totally fine. You can just answer the questions kind of to yourself in your head, write them down in your notepad, it's totally up to yourself. But if you want to try and access Menti, then all you need to do is open up the internet browser, either on your laptop or your desktop that you're on at the moment. Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing that screen. Or you could even open the internet browser up on your phone and just pop in the URL, which is www.menti.com in there. And Once you arrive at that page, you will be asked to enter a code, which again, as you should hopefully be able to see on the screen, is 98305600. And then, as people are already starting to do, which is brilliant, you'll be asked the first question, which is, where are you based? I would say what we mean by that is probably sort of, where is your work based? What areas of Glasgow do you work in or cover? Or actually, do you work outside of Glasgow or outside of Scotland even completely? And you can only select one answer, so it might be tricky for people whose work kind of spans more than one area, but it'd be best if you could just go with the most appropriate answer if you have to pick just one. Now I'll give people a few seconds to answer and to think without my voice in the background. Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much, everyone. What we'll do now is we'll move on to the next set of questions. If Maria could pop us onto the next screen, thank you so much. As you can see here, so these questions are on a scale. So we're asking you to place yourself between 1 and 5 in terms of where you would set yourself on this scale, with 1 being not at all and 5 being extremely. As you can see, the first question is, how confident would you feel supporting someone facing money worries to access financial advice/support? And I should say your answers won't be visible to anyone else in the call, so please just answer as honestly as possible, and don't worry at all if you would place yourself at a 1 scale. And the same goes for a 5. If you feel you're a 5, then absolutely put yourself there. And then the second question is, how knowledgeable would you say you are about the cash first response to food insecurity? And again, your answers for that one won't be visible either. And if there's anyone who's tried to get Menti working but is really, really struggling, please don't worry. Please just write your answers on a wee piece of paper beside you. Give people 10 more seconds to answer the question. As I said, it won't come up on the screen, so we won't see anyone else's answers. Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much. Hopefully that's given people enough time to kind of reflect on those questions there. What we'll do now is I'll pass over to our first speaker, Chelsea Marshall from Nourish Scotland, who is going to give us a brilliant overview of the leaflet itself, which is a great place to start. So Chelsea, I'll pass over to you now, and I'll pop myself on mute.
Thanks so much, Leah, and thanks very much for that introduction. I'm just going to pop up some slides. Can everybody see those okay? Great. So as Leah mentioned, I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview of what we're talking about here. What is this Worrying About Money leaflet here in Glasgow? I'm a senior project officer at Nourish Scotland, and I've been involved in the project for the past few years, actually. So I'm going to talk about what the leaflet is for, who it's designed for, who helped develop it here in Glasgow, and give you a brief overview of the 3 main steps. So just to start off, what is the problem that we're trying to address with this leaflet? We know that far too many people still find themselves in need of emergency food aid, and that there are a lot of various reasons why that might be happening, but that they tend to be related to these 4 main problems. All of these problems relate to a lack of money, whether that's a sudden expense or an emergency, or a long-term kind of concern around low wages or low income. But we also know that many frontline staff and volunteers who are faced with trying to have these conversations with people or trying to support people to access the kind of support that they need, maybe aren't able to keep up with the ever-changing financial options that do exist for people. And many don't feel confident to speak to people about money worries in the first instance. You'll have to forgive me, emergency vehicles fly by my house all the time, and there's going to be nothing I can do about this. So what does the leaflet do? The leaflet is designed to help in those situations where you someone is presenting with that kind of problem, any one of those problems, or it's for the person themselves. And it's a step-by-step guide that starts off with the situations that people may face, explains the cash options that would be available to someone in that situation, and directs people to the advice and support agencies that are available to help you access those kinds of support options. The Worrying About Money leaflets were sort of a development on some work that we had done at Nourish alongside others in the Menu for Change project and in close partnership with Faith and Community Dundee, to sort of start this step-by-step guide in the way that it's designed. We've now been working in close partnership, as Leah said, with the Independent Food Aid Network over the past year, as well as local stakeholders in lots of different parts of Scotland. They are all designed to help take you through this step-by-step guide and lead you to the kind of support that would help you access cash and advice first. These leaflets are designed for anyone who makes referrals to food aid or food provision or food banks at the moment, who works with or supports people who are experiencing financial insecurity, even if you're not currently a referrer to a food aid provider, and anyone who just wants to know where they can find support with money worries problems. At the moment, Worrying About Money leaflets have been developed in 14 different local authority areas across Scotland. Glasgow we're launching today, which is so exciting, and Stirling will be coming up soon. If you want any information about the broader project or the broader piece of work, I've included the link to the Independent Food Aid Network's webpage on this. So who is involved in Glasgow? Leah mentioned a few of the different key agencies and key partners that we've worked with here, but also you'll hear from many of them in the next little while. But we've had views and perspectives from emergency food providers, community food initiatives, the advice providers, and many other voluntary sector organizations, housing associations. Probably many of the people that are here today actually helped to feed in. So it's absolutely been a very collaborative piece of work. So what's involved in this leaflet? As I mentioned, it's a step-by-step guide. So on the cover, you see step 1. These are those same 4 problems that I was describing earlier, as well as quite a lot of detail, because of course people will say slightly different words, use slightly different ways of describing what's going on with them. Here you'll start to see the beginning of the link to step 2. It's in these little pink bubbles. So under each of these categories of problems, you're linked into the next option. So inside the leaflet, when you open up your leaflet, there'll be quite a lot of information, but I want to divide it into the 2 main sections here. So the step 2 will appear at the top, and it's all those different options, all those different cash-based and financial options that would be available to someone in this situation. So if, for example, it's a sudden emergency or a crisis, the Scottish Welfare Fund is right here. Information about who would be eligible, when you could apply, and how you could apply is right there in option 1. It might be something that's more of a long-term issue and you're not sure whether the person or you are accessing all of your benefits or the financial support that you're entitled to. So then it would be helpful to speak to somebody and maybe get a benefit check. Look at all the different ways that you might be able to maximize your income. So these are the 6 main options that people do have available to them. And who can help? Here in Glasgow, of course, we've got lots and lots and lots of services that operate across the city, and it took a long time to find a way to make sure that they all could appear at the same time here. But we're really grateful to the GAIN agencies for supporting us in this. But what you'll see is that this is divided between the different regions of the city. So if you're based in the Northeast, for example, you just look to the box where services might be available for people that you're supporting there. You can also look to the Glasgow citywide sector section in yellow there. Here also in step 3, you'll note that there's mention that some housing associations will have advisors that can support their tenants. And you've also got, again, the replication of the information for the Scottish Welfare Fund if it's a crisis. And there are, of course, other sort of ways that people can access financial support through Social Security Scotland or the Department for Work and Pensions. On the back, finally, are lots of other additional support options that are available to people here in Glasgow. So I just wanted to point out in particular that there's this pink box, and working closely with the Govan Community Project, they've sort of pulled all together the different organizations that are working across the city that support asylum seekers, refugees, and migrants, and put them all on one page. So this bit.ly link, even though you'll have to plug it in, will direct you to a whole host of additional resources and support for people who may not have access to the kinds of support that's available in the middle page because of different issues around their status. So it's just worth looking here in particular if that's someone you're trying to support. Then there's things like Home Energy Scotland or Shelter, Breathing Space, so lots of different potential options that you would use in addition to some of the main advice providers that you see in the middle step. And again, here we have the sort of the key Scottish Welfare Fund, Social Security Scotland, DWP, and the Scottish Child Payment in particular is mentioned here on the Social Security Scotland section. So just to sort of close, these cash first referral leaflets are really about, they first of all start conversations across each local authority area when we're developing them between different services who are all trying to do their best to support people in these situations, but it helps direct people in a sort of strategic way towards the advice and support options that might help in longer term, help the person in the longer term. They empower people, both people who are working with people on the ground, but also people themselves to be able to access longer term support. And it shifts the focus. So rather than just addressing the immediate need, hopefully the hope is that we can work together towards longer term solutions for people and greater financial stability for people. And yeah, I'll close it there, I think, Leah, because we've got lots of other people to hear from. But if you've got any more questions about the project in general or about these leaflets, there I've again included the link to the Independent Fooding Network's website for you to follow up on.
Brilliant, thank you, Chelsea, thanks so much. And I'm just also going to pop that email address in the chat just now for anyone who does have any questions, either on what Chelsea just told us about or what any of our speakers have to say for the rest of the chat. We're now going to pass over to Angus McIntosh, who is joining us today from Castlemilk Law Centre. And he's kindly offered to join us today to tell us a bit about GAIN, Glasgow's Advice and Information Network, and a bit about what the process would be like for someone coming to one of the agencies who are part of this network for support. So Angus,
thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I'm joining you from a bedroom, but I suppose all our bedrooms are all our agencies these days, but there we go. So thanks very much for inviting us along. We, as well as being a solicitor at Castlemilk Law Centre, I'm also a member of the GAIN network. The Law Centre is one of 16 advice agencies in Glasgow, and we form the Glasgow Advice and Information Network. So there are 4 law centres, there are 8 Citizens Advice Bureau, and there's 4 money advice centres, although really 3 money advice centres in Clydeside Action Against Asbestos. So that's how they're made up. Before going on to what the agencies are like, it's maybe better to explain the subject matter of the issues that we deal with, because we deal with things, we deal with the same sort of things, but we probably deal with them in different ways. But just because of the reasons for us being set up, that there is quite a large crossover in the different issues that we deal with. I suppose that there's 4 main issues. The 4 main issues that we deal with are social security benefits and debt and housing cases and employment. These are just what you'd expect, the sort of problems that people would have that came along and asked for our help. But as well as these 4 main issues, there are also lots of other ones that come along which maybe aren't quite as common as these 4, but they're also very important, like, for example, community care or social care. Some obviously with immigration cases, discrimination cases, all the sort of problems that would come up for people who have got some sort of social disadvantage or who are in poverty. Basically what we do is we try and inform ourselves and educate ourselves on what all of these issues entail and what the law is on them and what people can do about them. whether it's the social security system or whether it's the law and debt. And then we try and advise people who come along and represent them in different forums. So the sort of philosophy behind each of the agencies is slightly different. There's quite a few of us here. I see Angela's here from Castlemilk CAB. So I don't want to go into too much about what CABs do, since Angela's here and might tell us later. But I think it'd be fair to say that the basic philosophy of Citizens Advice Bureau is that they try and give people information to try and help them as much as they can, to try and give people the confidence and knowledge to do things on their own part, as well as providing advice. That's not to say that they don't go further than that. I know at Castlemilk CAB, they've got a really good debt caseload, and they'll negotiate on behalf of clients with creditors, and they'll represent people at benefit tribunals, for instance. But a lot of the things the CAB does is a very high volume. A lot of people come in, and there's a lot of advice on the initially and in basic issues on there. Maybe the law centres are more representation based. If somebody's got a benefit case, we'll try and take them to a benefit tribunal. A lot of the housing cases are eviction actions that have been raised in the Sheriff Court. A lot of the cases there relate to eviction for rent arrears, and there's a lot of cases for eviction for mortgage arrears as well. And employment tribunals, normally if we see a client, there will be a pretty good chance that they'll have been dismissed, and we can advise them on whether to go to an employment tribunal and what the chances of success are. So it might be somebody who's been unfairly dismissed, somebody that wants a redundancy payment, or somebody that's been discriminated against. Money advice centres, they're slightly different again. Again, they're quite high volume. What they probably focus on more than CABs and law centres is debt and benefits cases. So as the leaflet was saying, everybody, all of us will try and maximise the income of clients who come in. But with a money advice centre, you're probably more likely to get asked detailed questions about what your income actually is and what all your expenditure actually is. And the advisor there will get into detail on and give you advice on how to deal with all the expenditure issues that you've got, and try and help you to work out a better expenditure regime. And then they'll go and negotiate with all the creditors. And that sort of situation is quite sophisticated these days. There's debt payment programs that can be set up, and there's bankruptcies. And all of us will do that, all the different types of agency, but maybe the money advice centres will do that more than the others. So as well as being set up to deal with these particular issues and to deal with issues in different ways, we're also located around the city. So at the moment, there's a split between northwest, northeast and south. That's simply a result of how the administration's gone in previous years. So there will be different CABs and money advice centres in the northeast. GMAP will be there, the Greater Easterhouse Money Advice Project, as well as the CABs in Bridgeton, Easterhouse and Parkhead. Similarly, in the northwest, there's a CAB and a money advice centre in Drumchapel, and in addition, there's that's what's called the Northwest Glasgow CAB, although that used to be Maryhill CAB. Similarly, in the south, there's two law centres, one in the southwest, one in the southeast, although we try and deal with a fairly wide range of people. Govan works in the southwest and also deals with the northeast. And Castlemilk has got offices in Castlemilk, Toryglen and the Gorbals, as well as working with the food bank, especially in Govan Hill. They wouldn't want to forget some of the more specialist ones. There's a Clydeside Action in Asbestos that are citywide and are based in the centre of the city. There's the Ethnic Minorities Law Centre, who are based in the centre of the city. And there's the other CABs. There's one in the centre, and there's also the CABs in Castlemilk in the southeast and in Pollock in the southwest. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. anyway, hopefully, if you do have issues or you've got clients that are people that are seeking your help, then there's somebody local that you can go to. If you do need any particular help and don't know who to go to, hopefully the Leaflet will help, because Leaflet's got lots of phone numbers and lots of email information that people can access and take up there. But if you want more information for your particular area, then I'm sure we can find people in we can do it in the southeast, but also in the southwest, northwest, and northeast that you can go to for something a bit more specific. I'll just really running through things quite quickly today. So if a client comes along, that's the sort of thing they can expect in each of the different agencies. The law centre, Castlemilk Law Centre's worked with CABs for a very long time. What we did Castlemilk Law Centre's worked with food banks for a very long time. What we did was in 2014, we were quite alarmed at the amount of food banks that were cropping up. So we went round all of them in the southeast, and eventually we realised that the Trussell Trust one, see Audrey's here, I think she's speaking next, were the ones that were dealing with huge volumes of help, and as well as dealing with advice problems and representing people in courts and tribunals. The Law Centre also tries to have a campaigning role. So you'd think by the time we got to this stage in one of the richest countries in the world, that we would be at the stage of looking at things more in a more focused way, maybe thinking about the sort of social care that we could provide and how to improve that, or looking at the problems of private sector tenants. But to have the problems now of people not having enough money to actually be able to afford to buy food is just ridiculous. And the way the food banks have increased is great for the people involved, and it's hugely impressive. But the problem really is that you shouldn't have people who haven't got enough money to buy food in the first place. That's the real intention behind the leaflet, to say to whoever they listen to is that there should be cash first, and the people should have money to be able to afford food, and the emergency food aid that's around just now shouldn't be necessary. As well as today's event, there's quite a few coming. There's also a basic income Earth Network Congress that's happening in Glasgow. It's not just the COP26 this year, it's also the BN conference, which is happening the 18th of August. So that's coming along, and we're hopefully going to be represented at that. The Community Food Network, the Glasgow Community Food Network's done a huge amount of work in that, and I've been doing some research for them, along with the folk at Glasgow University, to show the range of different things that's happening in each. So we're hoping to present that research paper pretty soon. But a lot of the work we've done in working at the food bank in Govan Hill has been really important in producing the information and the data that's needed to show the problems that are there just now and the amount of need that's there. And from working there, up to the lockdown, we had several hundred clients a year that we got through the Govan Hill Food Bank. So we're hoping that with this initiative, the people that need help will be able to get it even more easily than they can just now. And I know there's about 40 or 50,000 copies of the leaflet going out through Glasgow just now. So thanks very much for inviting us along, and I hope that information was helpful to folk.
Thanks so much, Angus. I think that was definitely hugely helpful. Just to understand a bit more about what the agencies in the GAIN network do, how you support people, and how hopefully this leaflet will make it easier for people to access yourselves and find yourselves. Brilliant, thank you so much. We're now going to hear from a few Glasgow-based organisations just about kind of why they support these leaflets and why they support the cash first response to food insecurity generally. And as Angus said, we're going to start off with Audrey Flanagan, who is the project manager of Glasgow South East Food Bank. So Audrey, whenever you're ready.
Hi, I've now been doing this with emergency feeding for 10 years. And right from the start, we realised that there was a need for people to have more information. And I'm not saying this leaflet is the be all and end all. No leaflet is going to be the be all and end all, but at least it helps. But it's a sad case that it's taken us 10 years to get to this place where we have one sheet of paper where people can at least have information of where to go. The reality of solving these problems is not about the dignity or the undignified idea of coming to a food bank or a pantry. We all need to recognise that poverty actually is very undignified anyway, puts you in places that you don't want to be. If, however, we can use the leaflet and move on from the leaflet, but in doing that also become active in ensuring that people have enough money to live on, because that's the only sure way of changing this, is to ensure that people have enough money either through benefits or their salaries to live on, then there would be no need for emergency feeding in any way, shape or form. We became part of this, as I say, because I was very clear that people need to know. Now, if it was up to me, as I said to Leah yesterday, I'd be running a TV campaign in this. You know, people need to know, and it's only by educating people to tell them where they can go and not, you know, and who to contact, that it helps. We have been sent a lot of leaflets. Some of my leaflets are going to go to the schools and the health centres, because they're the people that deal with folk initially before they even see us. And if we can get them to go to the Scottish Welfare Fund instead of coming to us, that makes all the difference. My role as the project manager is to do myself out of a job. There should be no need for there to be emergency feeding anywhere in Scotland, not anywhere in the UK really, but certainly not in Scotland. I mean, it's a nonsense in the 21st century. So really what I would say to folk is, get on board with the leaflet. I see there's been a few comments, one about keeping it updated. I have to say, we haven't really got that far with it yet. Really, we're just trying to get the information out there. But please get on board with it and understand this is just the first part of where we need to go. I think we all have to be very aware that and sorry, I know I'm speaking very fast, but they said I'd only 5 minutes, so I need to get it all out there. Come September, we've all been waiting for this tsunami from the furlough. I think this will be the time that we get it. If it's going to happen, it'll be September this year. And I think then we really need to move to nearly a more campaigning and making sure people know. And it's dead basic things. It's things like most people don't know. They think they have to go automatically on universal credit. Where actually, if you're a couple and one's working and the other becomes unemployed, as long as you've got enough credit contributions behind you, you can go into universal job, you know, to the new job seeker instead of universal credit. That makes a big difference, because if you go into universal credit and you've got a partner working, you're getting nothing. And that means you would end up probably coming to us, which is not the best place to go. Anyway, I'm going to stop from now unless Leah's going to say anything else I need to say. If I've forgotten anything, please forgive me, everybody. If I've insulted anybody, please forgive me for that as well. I really don't mean to do any of it. I think we have to understand we're all in this together. We all serve different parts of the community. And I'm in total agreement that poverty is completely, and it's not food poverty or period poverty or anything like that. If people don't have enough money in their pocket for the basics of day-to-day living, then they are poor, and we need to do something about that in a much more active way than we actually are just now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Thanks. So brilliant to have your insights on that, and why you see the leaflet being helpful for yourself and the food banks at the moment, but also it being part of that wider journey to making sure that people have enough money in their pockets to live on, which is the most important thing. So thank you. And about Hayden's question, really good question that he'd popped in there. Maria's going to come to that a little bit later about how we're going to keep the leaflet updated. But just now, I'm going to pass over to Mark Fitzpatrick from the Glasgow Community Food Network, who have been a huge part in developing and distributing the leaflet in Glasgow. So Mark, I can't see you, but whenever you're ready. Oh, there you are.
Hi, Leah, and thanks, Audrey. That was really good. I completely agree with everything you're saying there. We've been a big supporter of, you know, finding ways that people can get cash in their pockets. Glasgow, just a quick background, Glasgow Community Food Network, if you haven't came across this before, we're set up in 2017 to look at sort of longer term solutions around community food provision, anything from bringing income into people's pockets through food enterprise, urban farming, areas like this that were of interest to a lot of urban growers in Glasgow over the years. We've also been looking at, more recently during the pandemic, crisis support for organisations across the city. And we've seen a huge increase in the need for emergency food aid, something that was growing before the crisis as well. And yeah, we were lucky enough to know about the work of Menu for Change that's been happening in previous years. A partnership with Nourish and Poverty Alliance and Oxfam, and now getting taken forward by IFAN, and starting conversations with them. We really wanted to bring this leaflet to Glasgow because we saw it as a way of just raising awareness about what people are entitled to more than anything, and to also as a way to sort of link all of these organisations that are trying to help these people get out of immediate crisis. And we've seen through the pandemic that, you know, as terrible as it's been for everyone, that a lot more organisations are now sort of linking up together and speaking together and looking for you know, immediate solutions to crisis issues, but also talking about, you know, what we can do to reform structural issues that everyone's been facing prior to the pandemic. And yeah, we're hoping through some of these discussions that can happen through the leaflet and help that goes out there to sort of put pressure on, you know, reforming, you know, what the welfare systems that are provided for people, and also giving extra support to organisations and agencies that are able to give them help to get them out of crisis and hopefully away from the need for emergency food aid. We saw before the crisis a study by Castlemilk Law Centre why people go to food banks that 90% had solvable issues that were going to food banks, and there was ways to reduce the need for, you know, food parcels. And also North Lanarkshire, where they were reducing the Scottish Welfare Fund. I mean, they were reducing, sorry, the need for emergency food aid by turning people to the Scottish Welfare Fund. A start figure of 22%, but this was before they reformed universal credit. So again, you know, this leaflet getting out there, I think it is just drawing everyone together and starting a conversation across agencies, organisations, and people that need to help. That we need change to happen, and I think this has been fantastic to work with all these organisations to look at that. Yeah, just I suppose lastly, we're also part of the Glasgow Food Policy Partnership, which has helped bring in community leaders to look at a city food plan, which is wanting to make bigger changes in the city as well, which Siobhan's going to talk about after me. But just wanted to say that, you know, we're really excited that there are things happening in the city now. We just need to take that momentum and see where we can go with it. I'm not sure how long I've been speaking, but
That's perfect. Thank you so much, and thanks as well for the perfect segue into our next two speakers, because yeah, they are going to be talking about where these leaflets fit in as part of Glasgow's wider cash first response to food insecurity. So the first person we're going to hear from is Anna Bailey, who's joining us from the Child Poverty Action Group in Scotland. So yeah, just whenever you're ready, Anna. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Leah. Yeah, so my name's Anna and I'm the Child Poverty Coordinator for Glasgow, and I'm based, like Leah says, at Child Poverty Action Group. I'm really, really excited to be here today. It's great to see the leaflets being launched in Glasgow and ready for community members and workers who are supporting them to access all the information that's on them. I'm especially pleased because many moons ago I was involved in one of the first iterations of these leaflets in Fife with Chelsea. So it's really amazing to see how they've developed and evolved and kind of gone across the whole of Scotland, and now they're in Glasgow, which is great. And also the fact that they've been co-developed with services in Glasgow, so everybody here has had an input into it, so it feels as if it's a Glasgow leaflet, which is brilliant. From I guess a child poverty action group perspective, access to expert advice and information is really crucial to ensuring that people are able to access their rights and entitlements, particularly in a crisis. As we mentioned a few times today, but we're really fortunate in Scotland to have the Scottish Welfare Fund as a cash-based response to income crisis. And it's really important that as many people are aware of that and as many workers are aware of that, as well as how to access that. So Audrey, I love your idea of a TV campaign. I'm totally up for that. I think it would be great because the more people that know about it, then the more people that will be able to access it. And what we've found is that sometimes people are going to a food bank or to another type of support or relying on informal mechanisms when actually they might have some money that they could access, which would give them more options about what they can do and how they can meet their needs. We also heard from Angus about the diverse sector of advice and financial inclusion provision that we have across the city, and it's really important that people know what that is, know that they're there to support people as their circumstances change. And that's something that's becoming quite clear across, part of my job is supporting child poverty groups across the city. And what's become quite clear as a result of the continuing and ongoing impacts of the pandemic is that we've got lots of families and households who were previously experiencing hardship and have seen their situations worsen as a result of the impacts of the pandemic. And then we've got lots of families and households who were maybe doing okay, but as a result of a change in circumstance have been pushed over a cliff edge and are now experiencing financial hardship and potentially having to access systems of support that they've got no experience of accessing before. And it's really important that tools like this are available to community members, but also workers who are supporting them, so that we can support families and the wider community to navigate a complex security system and what might seem like a complex system of support. And again, just backing up what you said again, Audrey, I'm just stealing what you were saying. This is the first step. I really hope that you don't all see it just as a leaflet, but more as a tool that you can use to engage with people that you're working with who might be experiencing some sort of crisis, or who might just be generally worried about their income in the future, given that we know we've got the end of furlough coming up and just highly changeable circumstances that everyone's living in at the moment. So yeah, really excited to be involved, and I'm really keen to see how it develops in Glasgow and what the next steps might be. So yeah, thanks for having me here, and excited to work with you all in the future.
Thanks so much, Anna. Thank you for that. We're now going to pass over to Siobhan Boyle, who's joining us from Glasgow City Health and Social Care Partnership. Thanks, Siobhan.
Thank you, Leah. So thanks very much for inviting me along today. I'm delighted to be able to come and be able to speak to you about the connect of Glasgow City Food Plan to the Worrying About Money Cash First leaflet and its support to a cash first approach in Glasgow. So as you know, my name is Siobhan Boyle through the intro. I'm a health improvement lead with Health Improvement. I'm here today as a member of the Glasgow City Food Plan project team, which is comprised of NHS, GGC Public Health, Glasgow City Council, Glasgow HSCP, Glasgow Community Food Network and Glasgow Centre for Population Health, who've all been involved in Glasgow City Food Plan. Glasgow City Food Plan, just to give you a brief background on it, it's been many years in the making and it's involved over 80 organisations and its evolution. A food summit took place in the city in May 2019, which cemented the need for a food plan for the city, and 6 themes for the plan were born on that day. Fast forward a series of events, partnership working and an extensive public consultation last year, we're here now to a full Glasgow City Food Plan with 76 actions for Glasgow City. I've been responsible for redrafting the actions in the Food Poverty Fair Food for All section of the plan following the consultation, which had over 600 responses. Within this section, we've explicitly mentioned the Worrying About Money leaflet as a source of help for people and organisations in the city. This resource links really well with this section, especially in the actions that are looking to One, develop a more coordinated response to supporting those in food poverty by continuing to develop advice first and cash first principles to help transition away from food aid referrals. And two, ensuring that all frontline staff in the city have an understanding of poverty, incorporating broader food insecurity issues, and all staff are confident in the referral pathways to advice first and cash first support. So you can see the really close alignment with what this resource provides to complement that. So with these two actions, the Worrying About Money Cash First leaflet will be a resource of note and will go alongside and strengthen the work that's happening on the ground on these actions. And just to give you a flavour of what some of these actions, underneath the overall actions, the kind of roots of the way we want to achieve them, are looking to roll out best practice sessions in the city around advice first and cash first approach. We're looking to look at poverty training sessions in the city, which are widened to include fuller understanding for workers on destitution and food insecurity. And the aim of all that is to build capacity to identify people in need and use of referral pathways. We're also looking to ensure that agencies across the city adopt advice first and cash first approaches as a matter of course. And we're also looking for the awareness of cash crisis grants across the city to be out there and people being aware of them. Now, all of what I've been mentioning there and been speaking about links so well to what this leaflet is able to provide and be able to complement for those actual aims of the plan. So what we'll be looking to do is just really look forward to seeing the leaflet being out there in communities with people that are working in the area, and also being a valuable resource to complement these actions within Glasgow City Food Plan. So it's really just to say that it's a great fit for the work that's in that section, and I look forward to seeing it being used.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Siobhan. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's brilliant to hear how it's all kind of tying in so well to what's happening with the food plan. Thank you. Now, last but not least, the final person I'm going to pass over to with some very important information about how we can all actually access the leaflets is Maria Marshall from the Independent Food Aid Network. So yeah, Maria, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Leah. And so there's over 50,000 printed copies of the leaflet now that have been made available across Glasgow, and that's to over 70 organisations. And that's thanks to the hard work of the Glasgow Community Food Network and Community Transport Glasgow, so we're really grateful to them. But you can also download the leaflet as a PDF from MyFund's website, so I'm going to put the link to that in the chat now. And there's a contact on that page if you want to inquire about accessibility requirements or different size specifications as well. And there's also an opportunity on that page to register interest in receiving hard copies in future print runs that we do. And finally, thanks to Hayden for your question in the chat about how we're going to keep the leaflet updated. We've taken care that any information on the leaflet isn't likely to age quickly. And on the back there is a date to show when the leaflet has last been updated. But due to new funding now, we're going to revisit the leaflets we've developed in Scotland on a 6-month basis. So we'll be working with stakeholders to make sure that the leaflet's up to date, and that's going to be available at the link I put in the chat there. And I'll pass back to Leah now for the closing questions.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And also, yeah, thank you again to all of our speakers this afternoon. It was so brilliant to hear from everyone. And yeah, we just really appreciate everyone taking the time to join us and share all your fantastic insights with us. In terms of questions, I know I said that we would make some time for questions. I think the only question that I saw in the chat was the one from the Hayden around how the leaflet would be kept up to date. If I've completely missed a huge question, please do let me know. I don't know if anyone would put their hand up or give me a shout. But if Sabine, sorry, I think I've missed the question.
There was a question around translations. Hi, I'm Sabine from the Independent Food Aid Network, and there are some translations becoming available. And Maria, do you want to just explain the first 3 languages that we are translating? And then if you want to register interest in further translation, you can do that through the order form on the IFAM website. Maria?
Sure, yes, so the leaflet's now been translated into Arabic, Polish and Romanian, and that's going to be available soon on the leaflet page. I put the link into the chat. And we're looking to translate into some more languages now. We've gathered some interest about which ones will be most helpful. So we'll keep you updated on that as well.
Thanks very much, Sabine and Maria. Sorry, I think a couple of other questions had actually came in just as I started to speak there. There was another question from Diane around if there had been any involvement with DWP with these leaflets. I'm not sure if Sabine or Chelsea could speak to that, or Maria.
I'm happy to come in. So we have had some really great support and enthusiasm about the leaflets from some job centres in different parts of the country. Not so much, or we just haven't yet made the contacts in Glasgow. It's not that they wouldn't be excited about it. But if anybody does have a contact in particular that you think we should be speaking to in Glasgow, that would be great. But definitely, as you say, Diane, it's a really useful resource for work coaches when they're speaking to people as well, because it's, as you know, it's hard for everybody to keep on top of exactly where different services exist in the city and things like that. So it's a great idea. Thanks.
Sorry, Sabine.
So, and just to say, if anyone hasn't got copies yet and interested in registering interest in further copies, then please do so via the form on our website too. And as soon as we were able to, we can think about doing another print run. Thank you. Thanks, Leah.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And there was one other, possibly more of a comment than a question. Oh, it won't let me scroll up to see it now. But it was from Sally around having a link with the British Deaf Association to get a British Sign Language version. I'm not sure if this is something we've explored yet. Please let me know if it is, Sabine or Chelsea or Maria, but if not, it's definitely something that we can look into. So thank you so much for flagging that. Brilliant. Well, if that's all hopefully we've covered all of the questions that came in through the chat in a nice flurry at the end there. But it's now, it's 12:55, so we have just 5 minutes left together. And so just before we wrap up, we're going to ask you again to come back to those couple of questions that we asked at the start, specifically the ones where we were placing ourselves on the scale from 1 to 5, and just see if there's possibly been any shift from where we placed ourselves at the start of the meeting to where we'd place ourselves now. So if you were able to access Menti before, if you could do so again by entering www.menti.com into your browser on your laptop, desktop, phone, tablet, whatever works best for you, then the code is going to be slightly different this time. It will be 77464308. And I think Maria will just share her screen in a wee second so that you can see that code. Oh, perfect. Perfect timing. The questions. Oh, it seems to have.
Oh, sorry, that's disappeared again. 1 minute.
No, don't worry. The questions that you will see in a second are the same. We're just asking you to put yourself on that scale again, but please don't feel pressure to move yourself up a point or two if actually you just feel like you would be sitting at the same number you were at the start. That's totally fine. Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Maria. So you can see the code again there, 77464308. And again, no one else in Zoom is going to be able to see your answers, so feel free to answer completely honestly. And also, if Menti isn't working for you, if you're having struggles with it at the start of the meeting, again, please feel free to just write your answer down in your notepad or just have a wee think about it. And I'll just give us all about 20 seconds to have a think and do that. Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much. Hopefully that's given people enough time to reflect on those questions again, and hopefully there's at least a few people who feel they've maybe their answers to those questions would change, and they maybe do feel a bit more confident in approaching those conversations or a bit more knowledgeable about Cash First as a whole. so yeah, thanks for answering those questions. The very last thing that I do want to flag with you all before we bring the call to a close is just that the group who have been working on developing the leaflet, we're hoping to potentially run a few basic training sessions for people who aren't necessarily trained advice providers, but are finding themselves perhaps more and more at the moment having brief conversations with people as part of their job or as part of their volunteering role about money worries that people are facing, and who would feel that they might actually benefit from a bit of support and advice and guidance about how to approach these conversations.